lessons or whether it's going to bring blessings. And so as we consider this energy, it's really about looking at the quality of the water that you're pouring in to water the seeds of whatever benefits, whatever goals, whatever dreams you're planting, right? And so as you look at that, is the water that you're pouring into that clear, right? Have you been cleansing? Have you done the work that we've been charged to do, right? So, or will this water that you pour into whatever intentions you set poison that, right? That's only a question that you can answer yourself. There are a couple of things that I just want to hit on this coming week, just to make sure that we are kind of aware and preparing ourselves to lead up to this moon. Wednesday the 11th, there might be a little bump in terms of you feeling frustrated or you feeling like you want things to happen. You're pushing things forward, but they're not happening because the energy is all about will. It's all about doing something. But remember, we're still in a Mercury retrograde phase. And so this signals that before we can truly move forward, there's some things that must be settled or resolved. Good news, on the 15th, Mercury goes direct, finally. It'll still be in shadow period until the 4th, but after April 19th, in terms of the heavy part of the shadow should be over. And so that signals that beginning the 20th is the best time within this new moon cycle to begin planting your seeds. It's the best time to take some action. So between April 20th and April 29th, it's the best time to think about launching a new project, starting something new, promoting a new product, pursuing a new relationship. And so that means between now and the 19th, you should be planning. You should be thinking about what are the specific steps you need to take. You should also contemplate what are similar plans that you've had in the past, similar goals that didn't manifest, that weren't brought to fruition, and really think about whether there are mindsets that are still persistent that you need to confront, were there gaps in your planning that didn't lead to the ultimate achievement of whatever goal you set? Were you disciplined enough? Did you have all of the right information? Maybe you actually need to do a little bit more research and learn a little bit more. So use between now and the 19th to do some dissection on similar goals that you may have set in the past and why they didn't come to be. This is actually the time now to do that sort of resolution and that sort of exploration. And then the last thing that I'll say about this particular new moon is that it's only going to be as successful as the soil that you planted in and as fertile as it is. It's aligned with the planet Uranus, which governs the crossroads. And so Uranus energy is all about originality, it's about individuality, it's forward-looking, it's about innovation and discovery and technology. It's also associated with enlightenment. And so this energy is great, but this energy can also rule chaos, it rules surprises, it rules separation, it rules lightning, right? When I think of lightning, I think about shocking and fire and calcination. And so this, to me, tells me that it's really about what it is that we are setting ourselves up, right? We are building, we are setting shape to whatever it is we're going to manifest in everything that we do right now. So it could be a moment of immense breakthrough, it's a crossroads moment, or it can be a moment of chaos, a moment of calcination. And that's really up to you, only you know whether or not you've really been doing the work. A couple of quick things until the next time I see you. April 17th, that's a Tuesday, that's really bad energy for anything money related. So it's not a good time to borrow money, it's not a good time to lend money, it's not a good time to invest money, it's 17th. And that's also tax day, I believe. This year, I think it's the 17th, because the 15th is on the weekend. Yeah, so it's interesting.
Absolutely correct.
That's a bad day for money. The 19th, things turn around again in terms of being related to money, so that's a good time because the sun moves into Taurus. So that's a very good time to, if you need to wait for some things money related, that's a good time to pick it back up. We also have two other planets that are going to be going retrograde. Remember, Jupiter is still retrograde even when Mercury comes out, so that's Saturn and Pluto. And they're both going to be retrograde for 5 months. And so with close moving planets like Mercury or Venus or Mars, we feel it. We feel it a lot in our everyday energy because they're close, they're fast moving, they're smaller. But for the bigger planets, for the outer planets, the energy is more subtle. So Saturn is the taskmaster planet. And so Saturn being retrograde might actually help us a little bit because it's not the energy that's very strict and stringent is not pushing on us as heavily as it normally would. And it actually will give us the opportunity to see things a little bit more clearly, to focus a little bit more on both the balance between the external and the internal, so that way we can move forward. And then the Pluto energy has a lot of Saturnian energy. It's a time just to reflect on power and control and what role that plays in your life. Is someone or something controlling you, manipulating you? Are your habits controlling you? Are other people controlling you? And so it's a time, are you controlling and manipulating others? So it's a good time to really evaluate that. And lastly, just thinking about how it is you destroy those things, eliminate those things that have control over you. That will increase your ability to pursue mastery in the things that you are working on. That will increase your individual personal power, your spiritual power. And so really just taking that time after Pluto goes retrograde to really analyze that. It's just another opportunity, urging us before the 20th to get in line with Ma'at as much as possible. So I think that's all I'll share. To Dua.
Sashet Ma'at Hu Ma'at.
Truth is truth.
Sashet Param En Ma'at.
Go forth and live in truth.
Sashet En Ma'at Heru.
Embrace the light of your highest reality.
Asut Betty Ross said Ku Keppel. Warrior. Two. Priest. Two. Healer. Two. Divine Reader. Two. King. Two.
Jedek Ma'at. Speak firmly of truth.
Jedek Ma'at.
Speak divine truth.
Jedek Ma'at.
Speak the truth of the Netaru.
Jedek Ma'at.
Speak the ancestors' truth.
Jedek
Speak well.
Sanan John. Fear nothing. Everybody please rise and give energy to the Asut Betty Ross saying Ku Keppel. Imitate.
Amasuin Panetir.
Amasuin Panetir.
Sawek Suamentin Panetir.
Sawek Suamentin Panetir.
Audwalma.
Audwalma.
Ketipa Heru.
Ketipa Heru.
The translation is thus.
Give yourself to God daily. Keep yourself for God daily. And may tomorrow be as today.
We give homage to the Creator, who is like our Father, and who is like our Mother, who is everything that we can perceive, and everything that we cannot perceive, who is everything, yet is no thing, who comes to us in the form of the Neteru Ra, who is the light of the heavens, light of the inner planes, as well as the light of our lives, who shines the light for us on the path of Ma'ati, which is the path of truth, justice, righteousness, and harmonious balance, who comes to us in the form of the light of vitality, giving us the strength and the endurance to live and act upon that which we know to be true. Homage to you, the one who shines in and through us as a beacon of light for those who are blind to the facts of their place, their position, and their responsibilities in the divine scheme of things. May we be Ma'akiru, true of thought, word, and deed, to our highest reality, and in our moments of crises, in the dark nights of the soul, when it appears that everyone and everything else has let us down. So it is, So shall it be. Amen ma'at.
Amen ma'at.
Ma'akiru.
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 MC, dua. Onkin ma'at. Autin, onktin, autin, hektin. May there be joy in our temple, or may there be joy in our lives, or may there be joy in our temple. We had a good turnout for our orientation for the first time Kemet class this morning. So I'll speak briefly on that, just in case some of you don't know about the class. It was 11 o'clock this morning in this room. And it's good to see that the people are coming for spiritual reasons and not just intellectual reasons. This is about the spirit of the legacy and not just the knowledge. The knowledge is good, the history is good, but being is better. The temples are known today as mystery schools, or they always been known as mystery schools, but there really is no mystery. The word that they're translating as mystery is shatot. It means to be concealed. But the mystery, there's no such thing as mystery. It's hidden in plain sight. It's just looking at what's there with fresh eyes. That's all temples do. That's the essence of what temples do, just have a fresh look at what's already there. So Sinjetti spoke about the growing divide between the scholars and the people that actually live the legacy. And it's a disturbing dialogue, it's a disturbing discussion that's going on in the community because it never should have got here. We've been so inundated with all this information, and the information has been associated with liberation. And we haven't been liberated, so now the conscious community as we know it is imploding upon itself. So everything that we once embraced as things that empowered us, now people are turning on us for. Now we're not supposed to be in the crystals and meditation and things like that. You know, we might use the word chakras, but now we can't be in the chakras and stuff. Things that's grounded and supported people in their path, we're now being attacked for. So this is not about my opinion. We always got to go to the ancestors to see what their opinion about such things are, because things like this happens, it cycles around. So I'll quote everyone's favorite Ptah Hotep, page 41, the Lucia. It says, "Be not arrogant because of your knowledge. Take counsel with the ignorant as well as the wise. For the limits of knowledge in any field has never been set, and no one has ever reached them. Wisdom is rarer than emeralds, and yet it is found amongst the women who gather at the grindstones." So what that's saying is, there will always be people that's smart. There will always be people that's smart as ever. There will always be people that's sharp as ever. But every now and then, sometimes wisdom and knowledge comes from unlikely people, from unlikely circumstances. In the century that we live in, being Kemetic and having a Kemetic temple is unlikely, coming from a people, a nation in unlikely circumstances. They like to believe, I think the brother's locked up. They like to believe that we just make stuff up. And I think we quoted a text from that before. I think it's from the book of Keti, following the footsteps of your ancestors. Their words endure in books. Open them and read them and follow their wise counsel. So we don't just be making stuff up. We look at what our ancestors done and we try to translate it in a relative way to what we're going through and what our experience is. We have that right because we're not totally genetically identical to them. It's been a long journey to become who we are today. So in our own right, we're our own nation. And being our own nation with unique circumstances and conditions, we have a right to adjust some principles in a way that has to empower us, while in respect to the original. Y'all get it? That's why even in Africa, you have different villages that spring from the same ethnicity. And they have slightly different variations, interpretations. There could be 7 deities in one village, and the next one have 5 of the 7, but 2 different ones. So if that's tolerant on the continent, then it has to be tolerant nationwide. So no, we don't just make stuff up. So in closing with that comment, we have to go to Ptah Hotep again and say, if you're a leader and commander of many, strive for excellence in all that you do. Be blameless in matters of conduct. That's key, because this whole thing is really about character and conduct, not the knowledge. We got to do it simultaneously, so the knowledge is not necessarily less important. It has to be active. When you say, speak my eye, do my eye. It's an action, and it's more than an action, it's being. We have to come from a place of being, not just doing. When you come from a place of being, that's the knowledge and all of that other stuff that people say is important. It's all of that in live time. So now we're talking about being blameless in matter of conduct. In the current conscious community now, who is known for their conduct and character? Quiet. Once again, who is known for good conduct and character in the conscious community now with all the teachers? It's almost unheard of, right? We have a lot of smart people, a lot of intellects and stuff, but like I said, the conscious community is imploding on itself, so everyone attacking each other, so-called exposing each other. That's how you know who's reading the text and who's not reading the text, because the ancestors are turning in their graves looking at people's behavior and claiming to be Nile Valley on top of that. Our ancestors, or any ancestors, whether it's Nile Valley, whether it's Nigeria, whether it's Akan, the ancestors hold you to the highest standards. They do not play. So how dare we even use the word or concept or invoke the name of the ancestors in our dialogue, and we're not on our square or in our center, right? So if what good is the knowledge if you got no act right? What good is the knowledge if your behavior undermines the knowledge? That means there's no value in the knowledge after that. So I just wanted to clarify that. So today's lesson I want to get into, I'm using the actual communion program cover, or the Dua Ra, the prayer that we just said. The lesson is how contradiction leads to consequence. And it's based off of the part in the prayer when it's talking about Ra, who comes to us in the form of the light of vitality, giving us the strength and the endurance to live and act upon that which we know to be true. We talk about light and vitality is represented by this symbol, the This is a continuation of the dialogue about the For all of those who know that we're a community, a nation in the building, we do divination readings. Our divination readings is our dialogue with the Creator, the intelligence of this universe. We ask the Creator, the intelligence of the universe, its opinion about what it is that we're doing, and it gives us the answer back. It tells us how to get right with our deity, how to get right with our ancestors, and how to receive the blessings. It's a risky thing to ask the universe its opinion of you, especially if you're not willing to receive the answer. They say we only use 10% of our brain. So we're like cosmically autistic. So we're asking the intelligence of the universe has no limitation. What's your opinion on how should we raise this nation? And it gives us the answer, and we be like, I don't know if I agree. At this point, our brain is not fully capable of understanding the complexity of what the universe is trying to charge us with in a few sentences. To borrow something from the Muslim, it said if there was enough ink to fill up all the seas on the planet, that still wouldn't exhaust the words of Allah. So we're talking about the intelligence of the universe, and we're asking its an opinion about what we should do. And in a few sentences, in a few paragraphs, it's telling us cosmic codes and information on how to become enlightened beings. So that's something you take serious and you take deep into reflection, something you should not live in contradiction to. So for those who know, we had an upside down arm. It told us, this is what I think about you. This conversation can never get old this year. Y'all understand that, right? This is nothing to just skip past. Like, oh yeah, you talked about that the last 2 times. And we haven't lost any souls since then either, so that's a good thing. So we can afford to keep having this conversation. So life, Ankh means life. Upside down means illness, death, devitality. So it's pretty much saying we have no energy, or not enough energy, not efficient energy, sufficient energy. So Ankh represents life force, to live and act upon that which we know to be true. What is that saying? That's telling us that our life force, our Ankh, is to be used expressively for the living of truth. Not just to have family, not just to get some money, not to have a career, but the living of truth. I don't think people take that as serious as what it actually says. Living and acting upon that which we know to be true. That's why we changed the greeting to Ankh in Ma'at. We were saying Hatep, like I don't know if Naeem know. He got up and he's like, Imhotep, and everybody's like, Ankh in Ma'at. Like, it's changed. Some things change. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Change is evolution. We changed it because of our elder Baba Haru. He came to me and Hemet and I, proper English, Hemet and I. At the Feast of Sekhmet, he was like, we gotta change the greeting. Because now the word Hatep, they put the O in it, Hotep. Somebody actually made a song and a video about it. Have y'all seen that? Yes. It was actually hot. It was a hip hop song. It was a sister, I forgot her name. I think she was a 5%. It was hot. But I was thinking about responding, but I let it go. Because I'm an MC from back in the day. And she's an MC from back in the day, so she would have got it. She's about to get the heat. But I liked the song, I respected the effort, but it still was a shot. Unfortunately, it's not even a direct shot at us. Hotep and Hotep movement is associated with a whole different tier of the conscious community, but it's still one of our sacred words. And unfortunately, a sacred word that's supposed to be used with reverence and seen as a mantra or word of power is now denigrated to something that's trending. Hatep is an offering. The offering of peace is never trending. That's right. It's supposed to be a way of life. That's right. So we say Ankh and Ma'at means, so now it's an affirmation. It's not just a greeting. So when I see you, it's like, yo, live in truth. It's a charge. And the answer is Aut in Ankh. May there be joy in our lives. So if we're charging each other to live the truth, which is a good thing, right? True. It's an empowering thing to live. Living in truth is supposed to empower you, right? So if it's empowering you, then it should bring joy. So may there be joy in our lives is the appropriate response if you're really living in truth. It shouldn't be something, I'll wait and see. I hope I'm going to experience some joy. And Baba don't know I changed it yet, but he do now. Like he was on a blog talk radio show the other night promoting the event for next week. And Akaya had called in, Buddha Akaya had called in, and when they introduced her on the line, she was like, okay, and you know, after she got off the line, because Baba was talking about the Hotep movement, he was like, and we need a new word, and then he was like, the young sister that got on, and she said, and that's what we should be going with. And stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm sitting back listening, I'm like, okay, I got the approval. To live that which we know to be living and acting upon that which we know to be true. So what is true is referring to Ma'at. Ma'at is truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, order, balance, and reciprocity. For us, Ma'at is the law. Ma'at is supreme law. You should think that automatically when you hear the word Ma'at, not something abstract, but law that governs our lives. So when you act against Ma'at, that's considered a violation. So when you violate the law, there's consequence. Remember I said the lesson is contradictions that lead to consequence. Really spiritual contradiction that leads to consequence. So you violate the law, there has to be consequence. Consequence usually is expressed in the form of an imposed restriction and an imposed inconvenience. We have a lot of parents in the room that totally understand when you got a high energy child that's acting out, you're like, yo, cut that out. They don't listen the first time. I said, cut it out. They don't listen the second time. I said, cut it out the third time. Now it's like, yo, come sit down. Now, sit down, not just sit down and be quiet. So is that punishment? It's a consequence, but it's not a punishment. But the child sees it as a punishment. I was like, I hate my mother. I hope she gets hit by a bus. Having me sit down. You know, because if you got a lot of energy and a lot of friends and stuff, sitting down is torture, sitting down and being quiet. So the sitting down and being quiet is the blessing. It is the redemption. It is supposed to make you reflect on, I need to do some things better because I hate it when my mother gets like that. Maybe if I do what she say more, she'll do some more things for me. Then we go all then it'd be out and Uncle joy in our lives. But they don't listen all the time. Many of our brothers that get locked up experience that. So when you're young, their age, consequences is time out. After 18, it's called jail. Y'all listen, after 18, it's called time out, it's called jail. And many of our brothers and sisters that's locked up or get locked up, they find their healing and their redemption in jail. They're like, I got to do my life better. This is crazy. And they come out with a new and renewed sense of living and acting upon that which they know to be true. More so than many of us in here that take things for granted. We out here living all safe. And we think, because I ain't been to jail and ain't been locked up, I'm already good. I'm halfway there. It's not until you get a portion of your life taken away from you that you start appreciating this thing totally different. So everyone who's living safe and cushy ain't been challenged enough to have to dig deeper inside themselves, to have to live and act upon that which they know to be true. So these are all the things that work as the fundamental thing that turns this unk upside down. I was talking to Brother Naeem after the last communion. We had a very down-to-earth, candid conversation, and he said some things that I totally agreed with. And Naeem, you said sometimes we make things complicated, right? When we was talking about that, and that's not necessarily talking about us in here, but it's true. In our community, we have so much information. It's just hard to sift through what's useful and what's not useful. And that makes me look at the mythology. And I'm looking at the mythology. And believe it or not, our ancestors made the stories to make things easier. And here we are in 2018 claiming we're in the modern age with all this knowledge and we don't understand the stories. Ra did what? Not understanding that myths are codes. It's a language in of itself. Mathematics is a code and a language in and of itself. So within the mythology, there's history, there's politics. So people are struggling which parts to take literal and which part is figurative, which part is a metaphor. So we have all these questions running through our mind at any given time. But they made these stories to make complicated things simple. Understand that our ancestors didn't use half the words we use when we're talking about something. They just told the story. Just for the fact that we have to keep using so many words and creating all these words to express ourselves shows us that we're getting further and further away from our connection with one another and the connection with the truth, that we got to keep creating new words. In Metal we could use one sentence in it to spawn the whole paragraph in definition. Like, how do these 7 words spawn 100? Which lets you know that the essence of the language is very intuitive. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we have a whole language of pictures. So they said a lot by saying little. One indigenous saying, it says it doesn't take many words to speak the truth. That's why it looks like many ancient civilizations wasn't on our level because they didn't leave volumes and volumes and volumes of books. They were very simple. They say simple things and you go, oh, it opens up whole worlds inside of you. That's what parables are supposed to be for. And it did work against them a little not to write it down, because when they started killing elders and elders started dying, volumes and millions of years of information was taken also. So what are we left to do? We're left to contemplate the origin just like they did. Knowledge, this thing called knowledge, is an element in the air, not really to be found in books. Books is a collection of information, not really knowledge. Knowledge, this thing called knowledge, you have to tap into. And then you have to have clear enough senses to interpret it right. Then you got to make it make sense in the form of a story or a code. So this thing that we're delving in is very deep. So here in 2018, people say, forget the myths, just give me the science. I hear people say that. Just drop it, I ain't got time for all the stories and stuff, just give me the science. The science of this and the science of that, that's okay, but the downside of talking about or dropping the science of this and dropping the science of that, it cheats you out of the process. Our tradition teaches, in order to know the truth, you must first live it. When you live it, you go through an experience. Until you experience, you're just believing. When you believe, then you go through the experience, then you have verified your belief, and then you can say something is true, at least true for you in a sense. Like, this is what I believe, I followed the ritual, this is my experience, so yeah, it's true for me. Not to say that there won't be new truths, but if you set up a science without a process for a person to experience the truth, it's just a theory that's yet to be proved. And everybody in this room has something that they're supposed to bring through, but you're supposed to verify it through your life and your example, and then set up a way for other people to experience the truth, not just intellectualize about it. So we believe, but we have to verify. That's why there's initiations, that's why there's readings, and that's why we codify truth through facilitating meaningful experiences. So for us in African-centered religion, the culture is the science. The culture is applied metaphysics. You understand that? That's what Sinjetti was trying to tell you. All the science and all of the stuff that you think you want to know is encoded inside the culture. You're not going to get it any other way. You don't just go to a Buddhist temple and be like, this, give me all your sciences. They just be like, what? Oh. Like, it's got to be deeper than that. Like, nah. Oh. So we got into the European mode of communicating, which is the left brain, which is verbal articulation. So we think the more words we use and the more eloquent we speak, that means I know the truth and I'm dropping something. But you need whole brain integration, whole brain synthesis. And that's where African culture comes in. You can't build a pyramid or a temple being symbolic. That's math. That's physics, that's engineering. So they were just as much left brain as they were right brain. So let's not get into the Europeans a left brain and the Africans a right brain. And that's why we can't understand, because we thinking like, no, it's whole brain. There was no power, it wasn't paralyzing or lopsiding our growth process. So I was speaking also with the brother about the Ankh upside down and what it meant to him, and he dropped his whole cosmology on me. He was calling it numerology. And I didn't know, I was like, numerology? What? I understand what numerology is, but what he was dropping on me was just another level. Brother's very creative. You see that Jack stand up? I like that crown movement thing he got on me. So Naeem is that connection to the streets of him. So very, he blew my mind with his cosmology. We call it cosmology, the study of the cosmos. He was asking me how to explain how things come into existence. We've gotten into all of that before, but Naeem is coming at this phase of our journey like we're just, not that we're ever past that dialogue, we're living into what we taught in the past. Remember we was going through the whole tree of life and all that? Like we've been through that. But I was just understanding your conversation like a few days ago. I'm like, oh, he's talking about the cosmology. So now, that reminds me of Sinjetti's presentation that you did at ASCA. It was about cosmology. It was about the worldview. In your tradition, your culture, your worldview is going to determine how you navigate life, navigate yourself through life. It's going to determine how you navigate yourself through your relationships. So cosmology is very important. So we study the universe through studying symbols. And those symbols have mathematical equivalents to it. The science is all there, the metaphysics is all there. So the foundation of what he was saying is that the Ankh is upside down because we need to go back to God consciousness. Who agree? Totally agree. That's right. We totally agree on that. But should we talk about God consciousness, which I already know? It's coming down to you just not living like you're God conscious. That's the contradiction. So that living in contradiction is setting up a series of consequences that's caused our Ankh to go upside down. You cannot philosophize yourself back to here. You got to live yourself back up to here. You got to get your energy back up to here. So I read profusely, and there's two main authors of Kemetic metaphysics and science. That's usually Wada Ashby and Raoul Nefer. Checking out Raoul Nefer's work, he has something called, or he's framed something in a way that I feel is very unique. It's about what we all know, but it's framed in a way that is very simple. He calls them the 11 desires in the 11 laws of God. You know, in our community, our ancestors didn't believe in gods, they believed in principles. The principles are forces of nature. The forces of nature are laws. And I say they're all of that. They're gods, they're principles, they're forces of nature, and they're laws. So let's have a conversation about the 11 desires that correspond with 11 laws. And this is where the Kemetic doctrine deviates from Eastern philosophy such as Buddhism. Buddhism teaches about giving up desires, right? We're suffering because of our desires. But to try to give up desire is a desire. So that's a contradiction. And we have to be careful with Eastern philosophies. They speak about enlightenment, right? And it's an attractive concept. They teach about enlightenment like you're going to be all blissed out and just in tune with the universe and knowing everything and all blissed out. But the Buddhists forget that we Black in America. And we got to work in the morning. We got families to take care of. We got businesses to run. So we cannot be spending 12 hours on. And you got to understand that, for no disrespect to the philosophy, I like it. It's beautiful writings and a lot of it makes sense, but it has to be put in cultural context. Those people that wrote those things about enlightenment are usually people that quit society. They like, I quit, I'm going into the mountain. I'm going to sit here, the heavens. Like we said, we got to work. Just chant home. Be like I did for like an hour. So you're like, it didn't open up for you yet? Like, nah. I want to see one of them monks come down and work a 12-hour job. And have to go shopping after that. And have to go pick up your children after that. And deal with baby father and mama drama after that. And see if they still be blissed out. Has to be put in cultural context. In that culture, that same culture where you got people quitting and going into the mountains, they teach that only 1 in a million is going to be enlightened. How many Black folks is there in America at the present time? 50 million. So that means only 5 of us going to be enlightened. Wow. So the math is not adding up, right? So you can't sell us on that philosophy like only 5, and that's not even promising the 5 of them going to be around at the same time. Right. The last one, the first one could have been 100 years ago. So to get us on this enlightenment path that we don't have the time for, and they don't even have the track record of having enlightened masters to show for it themselves. They have people on that path, but who's the last Buddha? Who's the latest Buddha? 600 BC. That's a long time. That's a long stretch. So they ain't even succeeded in that philosophy. So we have to put enlightenment in proper context in our culture. In our culture, this is enlightenment. Enlightenment is when you know everything that you need to know about what you need to do to be everything you need to be. Simple, right? Then collectively, everything that we need to know about what we need to do to be who we need to be. That's enlightenment in the proper African context. That's practical. African spirituality is very practical. So let's get into the 11 desires. Y'all ready? And the 11 laws. So the first desire, he breaks it down as desires and needs. The first desire is the need, the desire and need for inner peace. That makes sense. That corresponds to what he calls Amen. The deity Amen means that which is hidden. The deity Amen was first emerged from the noon, which is infinite potentiality. So Amen represents the first conscious, the creator being consciously aware of itself. So to be aware of itself and centered within self corresponds to peace. So the first law is inner peace. So everyone in this room, so pretty much is saying that these 11 desires are true desires. These are the only desires you need to be concerned with. It encompasses all desires if you're a healthy person. So everyone's looking for peace, right? So things like anger, greed, frustration, irritability makes you break the law. Naeem got up here and spoke about it. He realized that he's created a reality. When he's angry, he needs to let it go because you're actually creating a reality by staying in that frequency. So when you're known for your anger, when you're known for your frustration, your irritability, and everybody got to stay away from you because that's what you're known by, you're in violation of divine law, the law of peace. And the law in the universe, the law of the universe has this way of checking you in live time. And the way it checks you is through sickness. So by holding those thoughts, you're already sick before you know it. So it's pretty much saying peace is the natural state of the divine being. It's not natural to be angry. It's not natural to be sad. It's not natural to dwell in any emotion. That's the beginning of the sickness process. So emotionality turns this into this. So if peace is your natural state and your natural state brings you power, when you break that, you devitalize your life force. Y'all understand? Every time you break the law, you devitalize your life force. So that's one violation. It's 11 of these things. So if you master the 11 desires and needs, then you'll have perfect health. You master the 11 desires and needs, then you will be enlightened. Second one, Asar. Asar as a desire and need in the law. Asar represents the desire and need for unity. When we say Black Power, we as a community need to get together. So that's the Asar in us calling out. Asar was broken up into 14 pieces, brought back together through devotion, which is his wife, was his devotion personified or set, brought it back together to oneness. So Asar represents unity after being scattered. That goes to the teaching that everyone is a reflection of self. And alchemy teaches sometimes you have to separate in order to get perspective. So don't judge the separation as judgment. Separation is for perspective. If nature is everything that we can perceive and everything that we cannot perceive, everything yet no thing, then creation was the book of knowing the creations of Ra and expelling Apep or evil. It talks about Ptah, talking about bringing existence into existence. And he's speaking things into existence from unifying his heart and his mind. So existence itself is the flesh and body of the Creator. So the Creator is knowing itself through us in existence. Y'all understand that? Yeah. So as above what? So below. So we're a reflection of the Creator. We're understanding ourselves through each other. All of us are reflections of one another. You can't know yourself without being in relationships. Somebody can be like, you acting stank. You're like, I ain't acting stank. What you talking about? Then a year later, like, damn, I was acting stank. I owe that person an apology. So the only way you can really know yourself in proper perspective is through your relationships with others. That's the principle of Asar. So if you find yourself being challenged with social skills, you're in violation of Asar. Meaning people are resources. So if you're doing things and you can't get nobody to help out of a whole room, then you might be incongruent with the law of Asar. So that makes you feel some sort of way when nobody's helping you, right? Feeling some sort of way now makes you in violation of Amen. So feeling some sort of way and hanging on to it devitalizes the life force. Remember, we're having this conversation of how we got this upside down. So I was talking about sometimes you have to separate to gain perspective. That's why I say he or she, I think it's Ptah or Keti, he or she who is self-mastered, the harsh is kinder to them than their own mothers. So sometimes you have to separate yourself from certain people, places, and circumstances. Why? Because you find out that you're not the superior force on the scene. If you're not strong enough in your center to influence the room, all people, places, and things, when you walk into the place, then you're not ready. You might need to separate and fall back. So if I go into a club or bar, you think I'm gonna be like, oh hell, I might as well get drunk since I'm here. Y'all look at me like I was crazy if y'all saw me drunk at a club, right? And I don't not go to clubs because I'm religious or anything like that. It's just not my thing. But if I did, I'll still be able to sit up in a club. So if I go to this place and I can't influence people to get on my frequency, then I need to stay away from it, because that means they'll influence me to do their thing. That's all separation is about, to get perspective till you get mastery. That's why that quote we said last time about the noble or the wise person is a school for nobles. When he or she is around, no evil takes place. So nothing crazy is supposed to be popping off when any one of us is at any place that we're at. So you got to get your energy up for you to have a positive influence on the environments that you're at. That's the law of Asar. So when you see everyone as a reflection of yourself, so when you're seeing something you don't like, you're like, damn, I got to check myself. When you know you got your thing together, I was speaking to Naeem, he was saying he rolled in his circles and they'd be like, yo, what's them beads you got on? Crystal, like, because he used to be in the gang thing, so he kept his alpha energy. Now he's doing the crystal thing, and they'd be like, oh, that's what it is now? So he's influencing and impacting them and not being impacted and influenced. But that's what I'm talking about. That's Asar principle in live time. Yeah. Jehuti. Jehuti is the desire and the need for infallible guidance. Don't we all want that? Like, what do I need to do? Am I going to get the job? Should I go for this job? Should I move? That's what divination and oracle is for in the African tradition. We have the direct line to the deity to find out what's beneficial for our life force, our living of the truth, and what's not. So that should bring peace. That should make you feel good. That should make you rest in your truth. Your reading should never stress you. If your reading is stressing you, then you're in violation of Amen. You ask a question, you got the answer. You should feel good about it, even though you might not agree with the answer. You got an answer. Half the problem with people is like they don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to lose my job. I don't know if Trump going to push the button. We can do readings for all of that. So the reading of the year is Jehuti. We're operating, understand the energy comes from heaven and descends down. not down, up. The heaven descends. So we talk about Amen is the highest, Asar is the intermediary, like the Jesus principle, then Jehuti is the wisdom piece, and it's kind of going down. And that's that Kundalini zigzag thing that connects different aspects of yourself. That picture is just a metaphor of how energy flows, not that you got these circles and discs on your body in the invisible realm. It's just a metaphor to communicate how energy translates into your life. Y'all understand? Yeah. All right, so Jehuti, the desire and need for infallible guidance. So once again, a reading is a direct stream to the consciousness of the cosmos, giving you an answer that speaks to your spirit. You break the law when you question God. When you question God, you're going to feel guilty. The guiltiness agitates you. The agitation causes devitalization. You see how sensitive the universe, our relationship is with the universe? That's why I said being Kemetic and coming into the Kemetic sciences could be the best thing that happened to you. It could be the worst thing that happened to you. Sometimes it's better to be ignorant. So if you're going to be bold enough to step in this path and get into the science, this is how mindful you have to live your everyday life in every situation, every circumstance. The next one is Seker. Seker means plan. Seker is the desire and the need for empowerment. The plan comes from after you've consulted deity about what it is that you're supposed to do. So deity said, my stuff is messed up and I need to do some things. Seker, the plan is the protocol on how to get right and how to get aligned with my higher destiny. Everyone wants to know, what is my purpose? And am I on the right track, in the right direction? Some people on the right track, but they go in the wrong direction. So divination is like, yo, turn around, speed up, slow down, stop, pick up some people. You got to help some people along the way. You can't skip it. It ain't just about you. So the violation of Seker is also not following the divine plan, which leads to feeling guilty, which leads to discontent, which leads to agitation, which leads to the violation of Amen, the devitalization. Your spirit needs energy in order to create that magic, to make things happen. So if you're in constant violation and every time you violate, you lose energy, there's no power in your magic. No matter how correct you did the ritual. You're like, I did everything the book said, but if you got no energy, nothing is going to work. Ma'at, this is everybody's favorite. The healthy need and desire for order in life. Our text says, speak Ma'at, do Ma'at, for she is mighty, she endures. Her value lies in the hands of those who know how to use her. Her value lies in the hands of those who know how to use her. I know a lot of people who talk about Ma'at. And many of the people that talk about Ma'at lives in violation of Ma'at. The law of Ma'at is reciprocal relationships. We always say truth, justice, and all that, but what does it mean? It means reciprocal relationships, interdependence. There's no such thing as independence. It's interdependence. We exist in the fabric of the universe. There's a fabric of reality. All of us are interconnected. Everything you do affects me. Everything I do affects you. So you have to be mindful of that when you're doing everything. Even when you're drinking that beer or smoking that thing or whatever, that's affecting all of us, because collectively we all got this upside down thing. So it's a whole lot of us not doing the right thing. And that thing you think you're doing secretly is affecting, hurting, and making your brothers and sisters sick. And that's why I don't think a lot of people are ready to be Kemetic. A lot of responsibility, interdependence, people are resources. If you're right with reciprocal relations with your people, that means you have infinite resources. We're not a poor people. We just poorly manage our money and our resources, but we're not a poor people. So if everyone in here was good with one another, then no one in here should be lacking. Because each person in here at least has 5 resources that they can offer. Right? I think so. And we melanated people, the way I know melanated people to be, we're very resourceful. So if you don't have reciprocal relationships, if there's tension in the relationships, there's a disconnect. The disconnect makes you feel lonely in a room. Loneliness is separation. Separation and loneliness causes agitation. Agitation goes to devitalization. You see, we're constantly leaking life force. I got a note here. It said, when you become a divine man or woman, then the Creator could fulfill its purpose through you. Not through, like, it does some physical things in nature, but its primary purpose is to establish the kingdom of deity upon earth through us. We are the arms and legs. Harukuti is the desire and need for justice and protection. That's a familiar thing in the activist circle. The desire and need for justice and protection. When you're into so once again, this is someone else's cosmology. Harukuti could correspond with Haru Aura for us, could correspond with Mantu for us. Y'all complicated things. They complicating stuff over here to help you. Desire and the need for justice and protection. So I'm saying when you're in divine law, you are protected and good. I'll say it again, when you're in tune or when you're aligned with the divine law, you're protected and good. Any other thing that should happen to you should be considered character building through past karmic resolution, past life karmic resolution. Meaning if you're good with God, you're good with God. If you know you're good with God and the oracle says you're good with God and you're still experiencing something, there's only two things that can be happening. You're experiencing character building through having to go through some karmic resolution, or somebody throwing some bad stuff at you.
That's it.
Uh-oh, dude, because remember, it's a web. We're all interconnected. So some of us, see, I rarely go to the place when I'm thinking somebody had some altar burning black candles about me because they're upset. Some people do it. Those people that do that are often other traditions. I don't know any Kemetic people that do that. But when you're upset with somebody and you don't let it go, you might as well burn the candle. That's how serious it is. In African tradition, traditional African religion, they don't believe we're supposed to die. They believe if you die, it's because it's because of bad medicine. Someone threw evil your way. So don't most people die as a result of illness or something like that? So now you're seeing all the different ways we devitalize ourselves and make ourselves vulnerable for the evil to attack. So you might as well burn some black candles at somebody's altar if you upset and you ain't let it go. You let a year go by and you got an unresolved issue that you ain't let go. It's like the equivalent of 20 candles you burning every day. Every day you don't let it go, it's like going to the altar on somebody. Some of y'all or some of us in here got negative anti-fan clubs. Like, I hate that. They don't say the words, but they think the thought, they feel the feeling, therefore they're shaking the web. And if we're all connected, then I'm going to feel it and experience it in some type of way. Remember I was coughing and hacking up here the last time? Like, that's a possible way to interpret it. Was that my stuff? I got an impeccable tonic and health regimen I'll be taking. So why am I hacking and coughing? Not to say any of y'all did it. It's still a bigger web. That's why everyone has to be responsible. That's why the Bible talk about that 144,000. That's just a portion of the population. If we could get 144,000 acting right and doing right, that's enough to change the planet. Right here in the room, we got enough to change the town. And eventually, we got to stop all the talking and start changing the town. So, the law of Harukuti is giving up vengeance and letting divine law work. Learning to pray for your enemy. That's a hard one for black people. You mean I gotta pray for the cracker? That's a hard one to swallow, right? That's because you're under the dimension of time and space. So the difference between justice and vengeance is your emotional state about it. Do you really need to witness them going through what it is? And people are like, hell yeah, I need to witness it. And that means you have a vengeful spirit, and that's why the Bible said, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Like, chill, Negro, I got it. But we like, but when? I want to experience, I don't want to have it in the next lifetime, right? But little do you know, you're going to be in the next lifetime. Maybe you're going to be the one facilitating that justice if you just relax.
But we all witnessing.
We are. You're seeing evil getting punished now. That's unprecedented ever. Well, I think I did a lecture on that. What's going on in the movie industry and Trump and all. They can't get it right. It's crashing and burning. They don't know what to do with themselves. The house is coming down. But are you ready to pick up from there? We still got light skin, dark skin issues amongst ourselves. We all still ain't good and right with each other in this room, so I'm scared. Like, okay, that comes down, but what's it gonna look like? Who's really ready to put a governmental structure in place that's gonna be right? It's easy to criticize, condemn, and complain when somebody else is doing wrong, but when it's on us and we gotta take full responsibility for that, we gotta take responsibility for it being this now. We went wrong somewhere in the past, right? Did we learn? How much have we learned? Have we been practicing for that? This in here, that's supposed to be practicing for the structure and protocol in the governmental society that needs to be able to help us transition harmoniously. But yet, we having conversations about who religious and who not, and whose information is older, and whether we Native Americans or whether we African, getting caught up in frivolous things. So giving up vengeance and knowing that vengeance is Harukuti, then you pray to Harukuti like, Harukuti, handle them folks for me. I'm upset right now, but you're the God of justice, so I'm praying to you for justice. So you can approach it, just don't be vengeful. Like, you just give it to the God of justice. Does that make sense? So therefore you can release the negative emotion about it. Which Naeem told us, you got to let it go. That's what the altars is for. You go to the altars and you say, let go and let God. Go to the altars, let go and let God. We have a deity for every day of the week. We should be good all the time. You should never be going through no stuff. You should be good all of the time if you understand the deities of the week. Like I gave it to Arset. I'm moving on. Haru, the next law, the need for freedom and self-reliance. Fearlessness. Fearlessness is when you fear and still take action anyway. Meaning when fear is present, you be like, I still got to do it anyway because I'm a principled man and a principled woman. That's the principle of Haru. The principles based in divine law and not one's or others' feelings or opinions. So what that means is when we get to reading, be like, okay, Jehuti gave the reading, gave the pronouncement, Secker gave the protocol, it's all in divine law, I'm following this. And then people say, well, I don't know if you should do that. You's a sucker if you let that, you take that. Haru is having the courage to go through what it is that you need to go through because you're sticking to principle. And it don't matter about how you feel or somebody else's opinion about you as you attempt to live and act upon that which you know to be true. That's the hero. And it's a thankless job. Everybody think they want to be Haru or the hero, but it's a thankless job. You never think about the superheroes in the comic books. Whoever thanks Superman and the rest of the hero, you just be like, you go, somebody's dying across town. Go over there. Oh, you asleep, but they dying over there. They don't care. They want you to go to work. It's a thankless job. Haru is the the desire and the need for pleasure and creativity. So now, do you have wholesome pleasures? It's okay to seek pleasure, but are your pleasures wholesome? Meaning, do your pleasures build you up or vitalize you, or do they devitalize you? And when it's talking about creativity, we're talking about problem solving. So if you ever feel stuck in your life, you're in violation of Het Haru. That's a sign of being in violation of Het Haru. We did the cleanse several weeks ago. Did that cleanse open up some things for people?
Yeah.
That's the sign that you were in violation of Het Haru. That cleanse opened up some things. If you felt blocked or stuck, then that's the deity you got to work with. That's Het Haru, because Het Haru helps you solve problems through being creativity, being creative, being imaginative. Het Haru is the imagination of the creator. And so the law of Het Haru is creative visualization to master self instead of sensual gratification. People have the lower understanding of Het Haru. Oh, music, love, joy, that's cool. But it's about using your imagination. If it's the imagination of God, using your imagination to recreate your self-image. When Naeem talked about thinking yourself into or creating a better version of yourself through thinking it first. And that comes from imagination. What does the better version of yourself look like? Remember, the body or matter responds to thoughts. Creative visualization to master self instead of sensual gratification. So if you're stuck in violation of Het Haru, meaning you've indulged in toxic pleasure. The next one he says is Sebek, but it's Enpu. Enpu is the jackal-headed deity he calls Sebek. Sebek is S-E-B-E-K. Sebek is actually the name for the planet Mercury, which he corresponds with the nectar Enpu. So technically, Enpu is Sebek. But that's why you have to understand verbal metal nectar, Wi-Fi, and then the actual session metal nectar. The glyphs will let you know Enpu is Enpu, but if it said Sebek, and you could tell by what's called the determinative at the end of a word to help you determine what's the meaning of the word. While you can't, it's harder to differentiate that when you're speaking a word instead of seeing how the word is written. But in language, then there's supposed to be a certain inflection that we could say. We could say Sebek. We could say Sebek for the planet and Sebek for the deity. You see, it was a difference in how I said it. That's called an inflection. That's part of the intricacies of language when you can say the same word different ways, and according to the way you say it, changes the definition. So Enpu, the need and the desire for precedence to guide and expedite the fulfillment of goals. That's pretty much talking about protocol. How do I fulfill my desires? How do I fulfill my goal? What is the protocol? How must I live to get myself in alignment with my goal? So the law of Enpu is affirming your divinity over your human frailty. So in here from now on, we should never say, well, I'm only human. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. That's the trick. I'm really messed up in the game now. Like, ooh, if you understand thoughts create things, you're like, I'm all messed up in the game now. What are you creating for yourself? My situation is all messed up. I don't know how I'm gonna get out here. Of course you ain't gonna know how, because you just created that. Got two more, yo. Or set, ask. The healthy desire and need to transcend undesirable, dysfunctional, and unnecessary conditioning. Cultivate a devotion to actualize your divinity by righteous means at any cost, including your life. The violation of all set is inconsistency, procrastination. Those lead to anxiety and depression, which is the devitalization of the life force. Understand this, never magnifies whomsoever magnifies nature. That's all set. Go in with your spiritual practice. Go into cultivating your divinity, and nature will magnify you back. If all things is God. If the creation of existence is the nature, when you go in with your spiritual work, nature is going to respond to you through all people, places, or things. That's why I said at the expense of your own life, just go in and watch everybody and everything respond. Because a thought held in the mind becomes an actual state. A thought exclusively held in the mind becomes an actual state. That's a personification of the Orsetian principle, which is devotion. The last one is Geb, the desire and need for proof of the worth of their endeavors and beliefs. The desire and need for proof of the worth of their endeavors and beliefs. When you conduct your life on earth as a means of developing your divinity through the mastery of earthly circumstances. I repeat, when you conduct your life on earth as a means of developing your divinity through the mastery of earthly circumstances. So Geb is about the mastery of personal circumstances. So Geb is the last part. So we started at the top of Amen. Geb is manifestation. So you master the 11 desires, you're in full health. You master the 11 desires, you're enlightened. So success, health, and enlightenment is contingent when you are addressing and fulfilling the 11 desires / laws daily, not emphasizing one over the other, but living conscientiously in tune with the nectar within. So it's not an outer thing, it's an inner thing. So in closing, what we're experiencing is a collective performance anxiety. The adults in the room know what I'm talking about. Performance anxiety. You can't summon the energy to complete the act. Collectively, we say we're God. We say we're divine beings. We say we're the ancestors returned. You've been initiated, you have the tools, you have the leadership, you have the support. So now the ancestors is all excited. And they're waiting like, okay, give birth to something divine, do something great. And we like shooting blanks like, They're like, you do the ritual. Yeah, you can't summon it up. So you can't summon it up, got you feeling some sort of way, now you're back to violating the law of Amen. See how ugly it gets? See the responsibility on how conscientiously we have to live. So on that, I'll close it because there's still more to reading for this season. Remember, I did the reading of the year. There's a reading for this quarter, not the season, this quarter. There's 3 quarters. So there's certain things we have to do before the next season. So we can stand up, close out. A lot of information that was given today. Left foot forward, hands to 90 degrees. Say shimmy in the tap. Be a new Uncle Johnson. Open up, give energy around the room. Back the foot, bring the energy into the heart. On the count of 3, stomp and ground out with your right foot. Wa, Sanu, Shabbat.
Please don't forget to make a donation before you go. You can leave it in the bowl near the door, or you can give it to Chef Armin Cowell. Also, please make a separate donation if you partake of any of the snacks at the welcome table. Very good. Okay, so I'm good. Nice to meet you.
So tell me about your job.
Oh, this is a organization. So we are a community-based organization. So we work with institutions and we go into their homes and check their conditions. We link and refer them to psychiatrists and any other assessments. So our goal is to keep them out of the hospital. There's a lot of them come from state and so we are required also to
Listen, he keeps coming on behalf of shut. Okay, whatever I gotta do. You can't do everybody. Orientation this morning, so now I know I can talk to you anytime. I can you and one of any other children in here.
I said typically the classes might be about 15 to 20 people. Maybe a little bit more just because sometimes we have people from the neighbors come over without
You have some money.
So sometimes they will come over and they will require training too.
Okay, so
Just to kind of give you an idea of what it could be like 15 to 25 people. Sure, wouldn't need it all at the same time. So, I don't know if you ever like partner up with people, because sometimes when we've got in the past, it might be 2 people, like one leader and somebody might be assistant.
I have several assistants I can pull in.
I'm really excited.
No, this is like a food.
Okay.
That's true. Let me get yours.
Okay, but my phone might be.
Do you have some money, Mom? I need some money.
No, I don't have any money.
So my phone number is 862.
How can I check?
755-6929. Just
I have
send me a
enough
text.
money for groceries.
Just in case my phone.
I
My address is
Thanks, Mom.
MAAKA apostrophe capital R lowercase a. Okay. So I'll contact you tomorrow. Okay.
I say both. I may have my own bag.
No, I got you one screen check. I got